That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet.
When you could not prove anyone right or wrong, all the expertise was contained in the people involved in the conversation.
We hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us.
Do you guys just dream about making it big on this? Do you remember what my answer was?
What's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I dream about it. Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, podcast about talking. We're your co-hosts. I'm Peter Billings.
I'm Cecil Davis.
And we're just trying to talk like we did before the internet. No Google, no fact-checking, no strange voices in our heads, just what we know.
Yeah. And no AI-generated voices either. Just this is us. And if you saw how many times we mess up during the recording, you would know that this is not AI-generated.
Yeah, it would be really tough for us to do a live show on anywhere, really.
We've done a couple.
Well, we've done a live show, but we've gone back and recorded, we've gone down and polished it up. I'm saying that when we get our gig on NPR, National Public Radio.
Well, there you go. Radio. National Public Radio,
we'll have to do some work. But still, most of those shows are pre-recorded also.
I think so. Well, even our favorite Car Talk became pre-recorded at the end. Right. They made it sound like it was live, but because we're recorded. And I'm excited about this week because we have, a lot of times when we get mail, this is in a mailbag episode. We're going to talk about a mail today, a piece of mail we got. Normally, it's from somebody that one of us knows or understands the connection. But we got some mail this week from somebody we have no idea who it is.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the email. It came in a week and a half ago. And I said, Cecil, do you know this guy? And you didn't know it. And then we got down and he signed and he's from Massachusetts.
We're on our way now, Peter. We're starting to pick up people outside of our circle of friends.
That is really exciting.
These aren't grandparents anymore, man. This is somebody that's listening to us spontaneously.
Well, my mom doesn't. My mom listens? I don't think my mom listens.
John G. gave us some interesting topics that we're going to try out tonight on That Don't Sound Right.
Well, he pulled back he quoted me.
He did quote you.
And it's always a dangerous thing when I'm getting quoted because... Let's use a number. 90% of the time, I don't remember saying it. But something he said, I said, and I don't doubt that I said it. I said something to the effect, something was 3 times slower in a recent episode. And I'm thinking it was me comparing my speed of running or walking to your speed of running or walking at the country mile, which I haven't been to, but I would say I would be 3 times slower than you.
That may have been when you said it.
Now, he points out that, let's say, the speed that we're referring to is 30 miles an hour. All right. If I were 3 times faster than you, that would be what? 90 miles an hour. But if I were 3 times slower than you, what would it be?
That would be negative 60. You'd be going the opposite direction.
Faster than you're going forward.
You have to be careful with numbers and math. Math is important.
But maybe and what he pointed out is maybe what I should say is I'd be going about 1/3 your speed, which is 10 miles an hour. That's what I'm implying.
Right. But 3 times slower has that dramatic effect to it. The 3 times is what gets us.
And he saw right through me.
He didn't fall for the Billman effect.
He saw right through my drama.
John, welcome to the show. Don't fall for the Billman effect. I have fallen for it many times myself. But I think what he's getting at is that 3 times, when we say that, there's a dramatic effect of that.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about, people are like, I'm going to give 110% at work this week.
So that means you're going to work 44 hours.
But it sounds really good. I'm going to give that extra bit, 110%.
Take it up to 120%.
I'm going to give 120% at work this week. So you're going to work, what was that, 48 hours?
48 hours.
Yeah, there you go.
Good job there.
Yeah, thanks. I did that on the fly.
Right.
Or my favorite is when someone's, you're talking about doing something, they say, we're going to do a 360 here.
We're going to turn this team around.
We're going to turn this team around
360 degrees.
Now you're going in the same direction that you were starting. So what you meant, or what we mean is, we're going to turn it 180.
Right.
And go in a different direction. Or maybe 90. Or 45 degrees.
Well, 180 sounds incomplete.
It does sound incomplete.
So does 90 and 270. Did you say 360? Oh, you are doing a complete
turnaround.
A complete turnaround. But that means you are going in the same direction.
Exact same direction. But we have lots of sayings like that where we're just going for the effect.
It's about to be summer here. Mm-hmm. And we have these days where it could be pretty cool in the one day and then get really warm the next day. Cecil, it's twice as hot out there. It's 3 times as hot out there. It's not 100 on a 50-degree day. That means it's 150 degrees the next day.
Right, but it sounds better that way. Has a deeper effect.
The percentages is the tough one for me because it's real easy. It's real easy for me to get turned around on percentages.
So let me ask you a question. So you're making a presentation, and you come to that point in the presentation where you've got to make an impact.
100%.
100%. And so you're coming up on that piece of the presentation, and you are now deciding to say, guys, 30% of the market is going to go in this direction. And as you're coming up on that point, you haven't said 30% yet.
Right.
What is happening in your mind? Are you doing the math in your mind and actually getting yourself to the point that you believe that 30% of the market is going that way? Or are you just making that number up?
No, I'm doing the math.
Okay. Well, you're an engineer.
Yeah. And I, and also in my business, I really have to stick to the facts.
Yeah.
And I've gotten in trouble by not sticking to the facts.
Right.
And it's better just to stick to the facts. Now, the facts can come from a lot of different directions, and you can interpret those facts in a lot of different ways. But still, you always have a basis.
Yeah.
You always have a basis for that number, that 30% number you threw out. Okay, maybe I'm 50% wrong.
But let's say
it's still 15%, right? And
yeah.
Whatever presentation that was, 15% would still be significant.
But let's say it's not hot stakes. Let's say it's not like a presentation, but you're arguing with you're debating with a colleague. Do you ever when you throw that percentage out there, are you pretty sure that that's the right percentage, or are you just like...
Me personally, yeah, I'm always running the numbers, man.
Are you?
I really am. Now, where I get messed up sometimes on the numbers, on the percentage, is what number do you start with as your basis, and then how do you get to the percentage?
Right. Is it 50% more, or is it 100% more?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not good at knowing, because 50% more is significant. But some people think what 50% more is, they will characterize it as 100% more.
Right.
And that's why I get into trouble. But as I'm coming up on that, like if I'm debating with you right now and I wanted to make a point, in my head I'm thinking, like if you ask me how many tablets are made in America every year.
Okay. Let's play.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So you're a pharmacist? Well, I'm not going to say pills. We have already established that we don't make pills anymore. We make tablets. How many tablets are being produced in the United States?
This is where, so how many tablets? Well, it has to be a ratio though. You'd have to say, what percentage of medications being produced are tablets?
That's fine. All right, yeah.
Yeah. I would say of the tablets being made currently in America, 70% are tablets.
Now, how'd you come up with that number?
Okay, that's that. So in my head, I think I'm doing the same thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Is that I'm thinking about the basis.
Right.
So if I'm thinking of 100% of the medications being capsules and tablets being easier to make potentially than a capsule, and cheaper to make potentially than a capsule. So then I just went 50 as the halfway mark and decided to go 20% higher. Is kind of the math I'm doing in my head.
Okay. All right.
So it's not based in, I know that we're a 70% tablet
but you
population.
Feel like the majority are going to be tablet.
Yeah.
75 seems too much of a round number.
Right.
It's not quite, because if you're to say that, if you're to say it's 75%, you're essentially saying we make 3 times more tablets than we do capsules.
Yes.
Is that number in your head?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I'm doing. So
you were not comfortable with a 3-to-1 ratio.
Right.
So you backed off.
Yes.
That puts you at 70%.
Put it 70%. Exactly. So I believe the number I'm telling you.
Right.
But I don't know if it's true.
I would love the fact check right now.
Yeah. And this happens all the time when I get questions like, how much of your business is how much of your business is Medicaid? Now, I may not know that in my head, but again, if someone were to say, how much of the nursing home business in North Carolina is funded by Medicaid?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm doing that mental gymnastics where I'm thinking, well, if Medicaid pays for, 20%, I think it's going to be around 20%. And then I do math of saying I want to add 10% and subtract 5% so I can kind of land. But I'm doing that. I believe the number I'm telling you.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know that it's right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But you're starting off with a feeling.
I'm starting off with a feeling. Now, I would do that in a presentation. Right. I would have a real number in the presentation. But if you and I are just going back and forth and you're asking me questions, that's what I'm doing in my head.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we just have to say, I don't know.
I prefer to do a percentage. But it'd be interesting do other people do that? Are they creating a number in their head that they really believe? Because even if you go back to your example that you're 3 times slower than me, you believed that number in your head when you said it.
Right. Yeah. And I probably was thinking you can walk 3 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. I can walk 1 mile an hour.
Right.
But that's really a third.
Right.
A third.
It's not 3 times.
It's not 3 times. It's a third. And that's what John G. was pointing out. He also points out on the percentage thing is that, let me ask you, 12 miles an hour, what percentage faster is that than 10?
Man, you're asking me to do something in my head. Was it 20%?
Yeah. Right. But then 20 miles an hour, what percentage is faster than 10 miles an hour?
What was the question?
What percentage?
Please repeat the question.
What percentage is 20 miles an hour over 10 miles an hour?
50%.
50%.
Right. Some would say it would be 100%.
The number is 200%.
Is it? Now we've confused our audience.
That's
we're getting another letter.
No, that's what don't sound right. Is that it's in fact it's twice. So
it'd be 200%.
It'd be 200%. If it's twice, then it's one is one then two. But that doesn't. That's right. That's right. That don't sound right. And the reason you got the 50% number is you started at 20.
Exactly.
You started at 20, but you really have to start at 10.
Yes.
And to figure it. And that's where I get mixed up sometimes.
Yeah.
And which most of the time when you're dealing with big numbers, almost it doesn't affect it too much. Right. When you get into these small numbers and you're trying to double something or half something, and then it makes there's a big difference between 50% and 200%.
So I know that you have a little bit of pressure in the drive-thru now. We've established that you roll down the back window and let someone else go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you've never listened, this is your first time listening, my cognitive processing ability with a large menu, a list of requirements from my passengers in the car, and a voice that's hard to hear in the drive-thru, I completely lock up and choke.
You say you're like 70% less effective in the drive-thru than
100% less effective than I was maybe just 5 years ago.
Do you have that same issue when it comes to calculating a tip in your head as someone standing there watching?
No.
Can you do that very quickly?
Yeah. I have a
little tip anxiety.
It's not exact, of course, but I mean, I'll get the dollars right. I'll get the And is it before tax or after tax? I'm always after tax, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm after tax. But I really appreciate the buttons now. Where it goes 15, they'll turn, they'll charge you and they'll turn the little pad around,
the machine,
like 15, 20.
Custom.
Or 25 or custom. I like that. They even had that at the 421.
421 grill?
Yeah.
It's been a while since
it's been a while. But I always appreciated doing that because I didn't have to do the math. They do put a little pressure on you because it's like the 15% is like fine, 25% is you're happy.
Put
a little pressure with the percentages on there.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate not having to think about that.
Sometimes at the bottom of the receipt, they'll tell you what the number should be. I like that too. It allows me to check my math.
Because you're doing it in your head. Yeah, I think all of this comes down to really 2 things. One, you're trying to continue the conversation. You're trying to keep people interested in what you're saying. So you're using these kind of exaggerations, like the 3 times slower or the 5 times faster.
It creates a visual too.
Creates a visual. And so I was talking about when they do a drug bust,
Yeah.
And they've captured, and I was talking about, my brother used to work in narcotics, and so they've captured X number of marijuana plants.
Right.
Well, they calculate, evidently, in some cases, not all cases.
The street value?
Well, yeah, that would probably be a thing too. It's a street value, but like the amount of marijuana is of the mature. Like, let's say, I think if they cut them down, if they got them kind of
these are the
mature,
the actual plants. Okay.
Yeah, but they would calculate how much they got based on what if the plant had actually made it to maturity.
Okay.
But so that's would be a larger amount.
Is that
pounds, in pounds or whatever. Yeah. So if you catch them young, but they're still going to say we got this amount of pot
because it would have grown up
off the street. Yeah, because it would have grown up. But yeah, I bet they do it with the street value too. Yeah.
But which street?
We took 13 million. We took 10 times the amount of drugs off the street this week.
I imagine it's not worth a whole lot in Oregon.
Right.
But it's worth a lot in North Carolina.
Yeah, you're going to take your highest street value to calculate that.
Where if anyone's asked them that?
What's that? What street?
When there's a police report, the estimated street value of this narcotics bust was $2 million. To talk to me about the math here.
Right.
How does that? Which street? How much was that?
So you're always going to use your most dramatic numbers in the news. I'm sure the news does that too. If you've noticed this, they've started doing this with the weather, and I really hate this. Used to, a storm would come across the nation, and it would just say, "There's a big storm coming up out of the south, and will be moving through the Boston area."
Okay.
Now they say 24 million people will be affected this weekend.
That's right. They do.
And I hate that.
Why is that?
Well, because it sounds like every weather event that was just a weather event in the past is now this national emergency that's going to just wipe out all these people.
We're all wet.
Yeah. So, 24 million people are being affected this weekend. I was like, yeah, but it's just the same storm that came through last year that affected 24 million people.
In fact, I promise you, over the course of this year, 380 million people will be affected by weather.
Yes. Right. I mean, like, if it rains tonight in Charlotte, a couple of million people are going to get rained on. But then you shouldn't characterize it that way. 2 million people will be affected by a storm tonight. Well, it rained in Charlotte.
That's why they've named these storms.
Why is that?
So you have someone to blame.
It's overblown, man. It's just, I'm glad this letter came in.
Yeah, this is good.
I'm going to be a little more careful with my language now.
Yeah, me too. And John G., you point out to us whenever we do something like that. This is great.
It's been exciting to have a new listener to talk to. There's been some other people tell me they're going to.
He's been a listener for a year and a half.
I mean, I'm sorry, not a new listener, a new mailbag.
But someone.
He's going back and listening to the old episodes too.
Right. Reminds me we probably need to go and do some AI processing on some of those old ones that make us sound way in the background.
I've done a few.
Yeah, I know.
I've tried to do a few, but I need to do more. I need to do, like, every time we do one, I do one of the old ones.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because we've got some AI time saved up, don't we?
I haven't gotten quite into that rhythm. But several people that were new listeners have gone back and picked up old episodes and told me that they enjoyed our originals.
Oh.
The original episodes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. They're very ours are much more polished now. Not that they're super polished now, but they're much more polished now than the earlier episodes.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're ready for National Public Radio.
And we would come very cheap to National Public Radio.
I'd do it. We'd do it for free, but just give us a nice studio to sit in, Yeah,
and some technical support.
Right. I mean, that's really it.
All we want to do is be the next Click and Clap. That's
we kind of do, don't we?
That's what we're.
I remember your wife, Christy. She asked us the question: "Do you guys just dream about making it big on this?" Do you remember what my answer was?
What's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I dream about it.
I do too. And I mean, anybody that knows me knows that that's kind of where my mind goes a little too quickly and everything.
Celebrity?
Yeah, celebrity. But yeah, no, to be like, that would be really cool. Those are huge shoes to step into. Yeah. Those guys are fantastic. But
That's right.
But it would be cool. I hope at least we have some of that vibe that those guys had.
That's one of the vibes we've been going for.
I've started listening to them again. They've taken all the episodes and turned them into a podcast.
Okay. All right.
So you can access them on the podcast platform.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
But it's interesting to go back and listen to them, because some of the episodes are so old now that they're talking about cars. The cars they were talking about, could be a 60s or 70 model car, but it wasn't that old of a car when that show started.
No, not
And they were talking about, so it's really fun to go back and listen to. And you can tell that they've modified them maybe a little bit and taken out some stuff here.
That's too bad.
Because not everything translates into modern time.
Who knows? They might not be allowed to say some things that they used to say.
Yeah, I'm sure they had to modify a lot of that stuff.
Or just not use that episode.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, it doesn't sound right, but you have come to this episode that was at least 2 times better than any other episode.
I felt like I was speaking half as slow. Before we close, we want to thank everyone for listening. If this is your first time and enjoyed the conversation, would you consider hitting the subscribe button on the platform you listen with? Also, if you're a long-time listener, medium-time listener, or a brand new listener also, give us a rating, leave us a review so others can easily find us and join the conversation.
And do this for us. This week, go out and get one of your friends' phones and make them follow us on one of the podcast platforms. They don't have to listen. Just get them to follow us.
Yeah, the phone's unlocked. Just go on there.
We haven't had a push like that in a while, but it'd be great. We need at least 5 times more listeners than we currently have.
I think aren't we halfway to 50,000 downloads?
We are over halfway to 50,000 downloads. We're almost to 30,000 downloads. That's the next badge that we get on our platform.
All right. So we probably need about 10% more.
All right. That Don't Sound Right is a production of TRSR Podcast in conjunction with Campbell City Studios. I'm your co-host and sound engineer, Cecil. Peter's your other host and does all your web design. Camilla's your barista. Emily does your graphic design. Ella does your Instagram. Giorgio tests our merchandise. Brent is our international brand ambassador. And as always, listener number 1 is Scott. So until next week, keep talking.
And stay curious.